Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast, brought to you by Seat Tires. I'm your host for this week, Ashwin. I'm joined by Varun in Singapore. And for the second half of the show, if all goes well, I should be joined by DJ to talk about the T20 that is happening later today. But Varun, pretty busy week in cricket. I feel like every week we now start this episode saying pretty busy week in sport. The Olympics have started. I feel like I remember constantly hearing about the Olympics maybe being or T20 being an Olympic sport in 2028. But how are you feeling right now? Have you been getting involved in the Olympics and the 100 in Zimbabwe, Bangladesh, or has it all been India, Sri Lanka for you this week?
No, it's been more Olympics than anything else, actually. The last 2 days I've been watching a lot of Olympics, swimming, hockey, table tennis, and I just forgot how much I enjoyed. And it's great because every channel has a different sport going on. India's got a silver medal already in the weightlifting category, so that's been excellent. And my favorite sport is something called handball. Like, I watch it once every 4 years. It's just great. It's like people running around playing football, but with their hands. So it's really fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, this is one of those ones where time zones just don't quite work as well for me because I get to watch it a little bit at night and then most of the sport happens overnight and then I watch it a little bit in the morning. But obviously being in Tokyo, that's perfect for you. But we could talk about cricket. We could talk about the Olympics all day. We're here to talk about cricket. And I really do hope to see cricket in the Olympics in our lifetime. So if anybody from the ICC listens to this show, maybe they can try to see what they can make happen. But we've had a pretty interesting week with the India-Sri Lanka ODIs wrapping up and the T20s kind of starting. So let's start by first saying you and I both predicted 3-0 in the series and DJ predicted 2-1. He's not on right now, but we'll let him listen to this at some point and gloat. 2-1 feel like a fair result to you before we dive deeper into the second and third ODIs?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, it's technically an away game for India. And in the last game, we'll talk about it. They made a lot of changes, right? So I think 2-1 is fair. I do feel if India had gone in with, I'm trying to think what's the right way to say this, their first string, second string side, I think we could have been 3-0. Did I get that right?
I think that strangely makes sense to me. First, the best second string side, right? That's what you're going
for. Yeah, the first 11 in the second 11. Yeah.
Anyway, it's just been a strange series, right? They gave out 5 caps in that third one at the start of the T20, which we'll talk later. They've given out another
which hasn't been. Yeah, we'll talk about that, but that hasn't been done, I think, since 1980, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I read that this was the third time maybe. The first was in 1974 when 11 players got a cap because it was India's first ever ODI. And then it happened once in 1984 or something, and that's it. So it's crazy. Anyway, fascinating. I think they mostly started to give out these caps so that there's no uncapped players left in the IPL for us.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think the fact that we can't pick any fantasy players now make it much tougher. And that's going to be tough, especially with the news of IPL starting September 19th. Mumbai Indians take on Chennai. I think there's going to be 7 double headers. Dubai has maximum games, but there's games in Abu Dhabi. So it almost feels like the test series hasn't even started. The India-Sri Lanka T20 series has barely started, but we're already gearing up for IPL.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. Essentially, 11 months or 10 and a half months of the year are just us gearing up for the IPL 6 weeks.
Yeah, and actually, COVID is spoiled for us, right? Because now I want IPL every 6 months.
That's true. So, but and we should be talking about India, Sri Lanka, but we're going to go on this tangent. This may be the first time ever that a player started an IPL season uncapped and finishes the IPL season capped, because that's going to happen for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. I never thought about that.
That's fascinating. What a strange time to be alive. Let's talk about this second ODI first, though. Sri Lanka ended up batting first, made 275 for 9. Reasonably good bowling performances. I thought it was really interesting. They actually batted pretty well, right? You saw Avishka Fernando make a 50. Dhananjay De Silva looked good, didn't really carry on. Then Asalanka made 65. But let's talk a little bit about the bowling. Bhuvi picked up 3 wickets, probably needed it, to be honest, like for his own self-esteem, etc. Chahal picked up 3 wickets. Pretty straightforward finish. And yet it took us down to a magnificent batting performance to get over the line. You would have said 275 should be, par or below par, easy to chase. Our top order didn't quite come good. And it took some heroics from Deepak Chahar to actually get India over the line. So talk me through that a little bit. Did you watch that innings? Do you remember? I guess he would have walked in at 160 for 6 with nearly half the over still left. I mean, when you're 6 down, your number 8 walks out with 120 odd runs left. People were turning off the screens thinking India had lost, right?
Yeah, so I was one of those guys who turned off the screen because it's quite late for me. And I remember when Suryakumar Yadav and I think Manish Pandey or Krunal was still batting, I said, yeah, this looks like we still got a good shot. And you can never say it's about 120, 140 odd runs to go. But the minute Sky got out, I switched off the TV and I said, it's late and I'm going to go to bed and gear up for the third ODI. And I woke up the next morning to messages saying India has won this. And I was stunned. Like I woke up, checked the app, saw the score, and I couldn't believe it. Deepak Chahar, coming in at number 8, made 69 of 82 with 7 fours and a 6 and won the game for India. I mean, it was just stunning for me. Ashwin, did you see it?
Yeah, I did. And I ended up catching highlights as well. So a lot to unpack, but let me step back before we get more into Deepak Chahar and ask, like, this is the role you expect Hardik Pandya to play, right? If you're that's why he bats at 7 for you. Are we evolving to a point? Are we going to walk away from this match where we feel like, hey, now your number 8 needs to be a batsman who can do this? Or does this give Chahar an edge over the other quicks he's competing with because we realize now he can do this? There was a time we thought Bhuvi could bat like this. So how do you think the selectors are looking at this now?
So I haven't seen a Bhuvi, a Shardul, anyone bat like this in an ODI. So this was something special. We have to remember it's only once. It's happened only once though. So best not to kind of get ahead of ourselves as we do with any great Indian performance. But we've talked about this so many times in the last 2 years. A lot of other teams bat till number 8. When the number 8 walks out, the opposition still feels that they're pretty scared. I mean, like England in some cases must be, Moeen Ali might be the number 8. So imagine a Moeen Ali walking out at 8. The game is far from over. So I think Deepak Chahar really made a case for himself because when you think about it, you've got Hardik, but he started batting at number 6 in a lot of cases, right? With a Jadeja at 7. So that balance comes to the team. And you have got, let's assume you play Shami and Bumrah at 10, 11. You've got place for one spinner or 2 spinners. If you play one spinner, Deepak Chahar is like a straight shoe-in, right? It makes a lot of sense to play him.
Yeah, really interesting, right? So, I mean, it goes without saying we should start early on in this episode and say this would absolutely, undoubtedly make Deepak Chahar the SIAT Secure Drive Player of the Week, right? The thrill of speed with complete control. Like you said, nobody expected it from 160 from 6 that we would end up with 277, win the match in the last over, and win and seal the series, honestly, right? That's what allowed for those 5 debuts in the next match, etc. But Varun, let's talk about why he had to do that, right? 160 for 6, chasing 275 against a Sri Lankan side that is not at the peak of their game. They don't have some of their players. They're not a highly ranked side. What went wrong? Prithvi Shaw again tried to hit a couple of quick boundaries and got out. Kishan failed this time. Manish arguably a little unlucky to get out, at the bowler's end with the fingertips just getting touched, but he was looking good before that. But obviously you're going to say I'm biased. Sky made 50, but Hardik failed. Like nobody really did super badly. I don't point fingers at somebody who says, well, these 2-3 people are the reason to fail. And yet 160 for 6 is never going to be good enough, right?
Yeah, and so this team kind of feels like we're watching Delhi Capitals, where the team needs to bat around Dhawan. When Dhawan goes early, the team loses. When Dhawan plays, the team wins. So Prithvi Shaw and Kishan really pushing at the ball too hard, trying too many things. When I watch them bat, I realize that, yes, India needs this. This is great. Keep them going, give them chances, but also remind them that there's 30 overs more than they're used to. So it doesn't need to finish in 20 overs, right? India felt like they were just going for it then. Dhawan got out. Manish Pandey's show, right? This is where, as much as I don't dislike his role in the team and the way he plays, but this is a setup for Manish Pandey, for him to come in a situation like this and play. Hardik Pandya, disappointing. Krunal Pandya, decent, but, I expected him to stick around more. Suryakumar Yadav was the guy for me, right? I mean, 53 of 44, kept the momentum going. And what I love about his game is that he just keeps looking for the boundary at every stage of the innings. It's never you could be bowling to Suryakumar Yadav and be hit for a boundary, whether it's the 10th over, the 20th, the 35th, or the 49th. So that's what I really like about him. And you're right, man. Chasing 275, 160 for six was never good enough. And I honestly think we got a little bit lucky. There were some edges I saw when I watched the highlights package. A lot of kind of luck went his way. Bhuvi came in and also was able to play out 28, 30 balls. But yeah, full credit to him, man. And he also credits Rahul Dravid. So let's not forget that Dravid has a lot of faith and belief in Deepak Chahar.
Yeah, absolutely well said. So India clinched the series, wrapped it up, walked into the third ODI with a 2-0 series lead and decided, hey, we're going to hand out 5 new debuts, which before we get into the details of that, the right approach, Varun, when doesn't matter if you win 2-1 or 3-0, is the right time to try new guys out?
Absolutely. And I think that's why we were saying 3-0, assuming India plays its best squad. I think the fact that you had number 7 to 11 all coming in new, Nitish Rana, Gautam, Rahul Chahar, Navdeep Saini, and Chetan Sakaria. I mean, in some cases, these guys may not even make the playing 11 of their franchise for the IPL, right? You more often than not they do, but in some cases. So big changes for India. I'm personally surprised they didn't play Padikkal. I think that was a big miss. He's such a swashbuckling batsman, if I can use that word. I haven't said that word before.
A great word. But it's so let me ask you that. It's when you're giving 5 guys to debut, it is odd to make them 7 through 11. You didn't touch 1 through 6 basically at all. And you brought in all new guys.
You brought in, I think Samson came in because he was injured for the first 2. But I agree with you. It's odd, right? Why play a Manish Pandey if in that situation when you've got a Padikkal there? Why drop Nitish Rana solo? Nitish Rana was, to me, completely lost. What was his purpose in this side? It was, was it just that, play him because he's come on the tour? He bowled 3 overs for 10. He had actually the best economy rate of the lot. You didn't bowl him enough. You've bat him at number 7. Remember, for KKR, he opens the batting. So I kind of felt that was a little bit of a miss.
Yeah, I totally agree. Very strange to me to bat him at 7 and bowl only 3 overs. It didn't add up fully to me that they chose to play him but didn't give him any real-time batting. But let's go through this. Shaw made another good 49, but threw away a start. This time he was only batting a strike rate of 100. Dhawan fell short, which we've talked. Samson looked okay out there, but again threw it away. Sky, 40 of 37 balls. Just so ridiculously consistent at this point, right? Yeah, maybe he should have gone on to make a bigger score, but yeah, go ahead.
And I think he has to be our Siat Puncture Safe Player of the Week. I mean, in and out of the team, we've given him this award a couple of times, right? His ability to bounce back. I think he was given out by the umpire. He started walking out. Hardik Pandya came down from the dressing room. Then he turned his decision around. He started batting again. There was rain. He had to come out after the rain. A lot of stuff going on, but he was ultimately awarded Man of the Series. So well done to Sky, and yeah, well done for getting the Siat Puncture Safe, Puncture Resistant Award of this week.
I think it's pretty telling that he's already received it a few times on this show, right? And you and I think we were WhatsApping in our group for the 3 of us, but he just feels like he belongs at this level. It's amazing. I can't remember the last time I saw a new guy come in international colors, and from day one of putting on that shirt, you're like, yeah, this guy 100% belongs here.
Yeah, and this is like we've discussed, right? This is the Australian brand of cricket where Mike Hussey walks in at the age of 30, if I'm not mistaken, and has the best 5-6 years of his life. So I'm hoping that happens for Sky. I'll be honest with you. I think it's going to be extremely difficult to keep him out of any playing 11 in limited overs cricket for sure. You should not be playing 3 keepers, or you should not be playing a Rahul, a Samson, a Kishan, and a Pant. None of these guys, in my opinion, ahead of Sky. So great knock from him, great series from him. He's going to punch the door down. And I know I'm jumping topics a little bit, but he's been called for the Test series in England. So do you want to just talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, let's jump right in. There were 3 guys called up, right? Do you want to explain?
Yeah, so I believe there were multiple different reports, and I know DJ sent us, the agenda for today, which actually said that Shaw, Padikkal, Sky, and potentially Jayant Yadav have all been asked or are confirmed to be flying out to England. And Shaw, I understand, Sean Particle, they've been talking about that replacement opener, which doesn't make too much sense. But they have been asking for that. And obviously, this time the email came through and didn't go into the junk folder for the BCCI. So somebody saw it and actioned upon it. But Sky, like, where does he come from? Like, this attacking limited overs player, a T20 superstar, has now just been asked to fly down to England and join the Indian team there. And apparently, Rahane's got some hamstring issues. I don't know if it's a proper injury yet or if it could be a potential injury, but they're actually looking at him from that perspective. So I have a little bit of a mixed view on this. I mean, you've got KL Rahul there. So you then first said he's not going to be an opener. So now we want two backup openers. Then you said he's a middle order guy. Now the middle order guy has potentially an injury and you're calling for another middle order backup. So I just fear that, people like Sky and Shaw are going to fall into this trap where they keep traveling with the team, but they don't play. And as a result, people like them are not playing any cricket for almost a year.
Yeah, but I guess that was my only thought here is the idea that, listen, with the IPL coming up right after the England series, with the T20 World Cup coming up right after that, and arguably, like you said, Sky is going to be a part of the plans, as he should be, is the idea, let's keep him around Kohli and the national side, and at least in the nets and practicing, because I don't think there's much other cricket he would be playing, let's be honest.
After the Sri Lanka I think, So, I mean, we know now that he is playing the T20 series, especially the first game. And I think, sure, if he can finish the series and fly out, 100% agree with you. Like, good to keep him around the squad. I mean, I can only see positive things happen by him being around Kohli and Shastri. He already has Rohit Sharma's... I just said Rohit Karma, by the way, but
Rohit Karma. That's great.
He has Rohit Sharma's vote of confidence. So I see your point there. I think there is merit in him going. But yeah, man, I hope these guys just don't sit out. But anyway, that's deviating from what we were discussing on the third ODI.
No, I mean, I think that wrapped up, honestly, our third ODI. Not much else to say. The bowlers didn't do much. I want to say, just quickly wrap up. Happy for Sakaria to get an opportunity, picked up a couple of wickets. Rahul Chahar looks like he's here to stay and he wants to keep fighting. So good. You love him, don't you?
Yeah, I love his bowling. Like, he's just... the intent, the passion with which he comes in. He doesn't turn the ball a great deal, but he's got some nice variations. He's the complete opposite to a Chahal, according to me, right? He's a quick leg spinner. And basically that's what Rashid Khan does, right? Rashid Khan is not a slow flight leg spin bowler. He's a quick bowler who has variations. He's a T20 bowler. And of course, he has the wicket-taking ability, but he has the ability to control the runs as well. So I think it's a huge asset to the team. And if he can maybe take some batting trips from his brother, that would be fantastic for India.
I mean, who knows? We've had the Pandya brothers play together all ODI series. Maybe we'll have the Chahar brothers playing, or cousins, I guess they are, but playing together more consistently for the next little bit. So honestly, that brings us to a wrap. Not the most exciting series, but hey, cricket is cricket. We were happy to take some ODIs. I think the T20s should bring a little bit more energy and excitement, but I think nobody crossed 300 all series. No, I don't think there was a century. Was there a century? I don't think there was a century.
No, there wasn't a century, I think.
The fact that it's not memorable enough for me to know this while I quickly try to stall and come up with the...
I mean, the thing is...
Highest was 86, right?
Yeah, Dhawan hit 86. I mean, the thing is, right, I don't know if you remember, Ashwin, but we've made fun of India-Sri Lanka series even when a Sachin and a Sehwag were playing, like Dhoni and captaining, and we're like, we can't watch this anymore. So now to watch like, Kishan and Nitish Rana playing in international cricket versus Sri Lanka, it's tough, man. It's great that there was Indian cricket on, but I mean, we have to be honest, it wasn't an easy series to watch. However, it's great for the pipeline of talent. And I'm a fan of doing this more often. And if India is able to win the T20 series as well, I don't think any board should be objecting this, right? Because you're getting viewership and you're losing. So you should strive to probably play better cricket.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we made fun of Sri Lanka when it felt like we were sending our best players there to quote unquote stat pad. And I know this is going to sound bad because Sri Lanka is a great side and they have beaten India over the years. But if you're using the series to send your second best team and still being good enough, I'm actually okay with it. Not as exciting as seeing. I think what was interesting is when that second ODI, when we got to 160 for 6. So just to wrap this up really quickly, at the first ODI, I remember feeling like, oh, wow, this team could play limited overs for us. Maybe we let our best players focus on red ball and let these guys play wide. And the second, when we won 60 for 6, I said, oh, yeah, that's the value Rohit and Kohli and these guys add to the side. Not that I forgot it, but, it just made me realize why those guys are the best in the world and maybe some of the best who have ever played the game. But speaking of Rohit,
it's all about balance, man. It's just about balance. If you stuff your team full of Rohit and Kohlis, you're not going to win T20 cricket. But you need to balance it out.
And if there's one thing we like doing on this show, it's talking about the playing 11s and how we balance those out. But we talked a little bit about the tests and how Shaw and Sky and potentially others are flying in. Let's quickly talk a little about the 3-day warm-up match that happened, because you mentioned one player and he was the only player from the Indian side to make a century in that warm-up test. And I'm talking about KL Rahul, right? So Kohli did not play this test or this warm-up match, excuse me. Rohit didn't do too well. Mayank actually looked really good. So I've said this last week. I'm super excited to see Mayank get his shot again to open. Honestly, with Gill being injured, I'll be a little sad if Shaw just walks straight back in. I want Mayank to get that chance to open with Rohit. Pujara looked okay. Vihari looked like Vihari, made 24 of 71. Rahul walked and made a magnificent century. And Jadeja made this great looking 75 as well. So does Rahul now start getting considered? Where does he play? Does he play for Rahane, like you said? Does he slot in as an opener instead of Gill? Like, what's the game plan for KL Rahul, given that he walked in at 5 in this match and made a century?
He's doing everything he can. Like, there's nothing more he can do. So I think if Kohli and Shastri continue to ignore him, even at the cost of injuries with other players, I think there's nothing else he can do. Send him back, let him play cricket at least. Because, 101 of 150 balls, I can't see him doing anything wrong. So tough on KL Rahul. But I think the biggest challenge for me is that your Vihari and Pujara, the technically kind of most sound and your traditional test players, if you think about it, are not scoring, are not playing enough balls. And to me, that is a little bit worrying. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those two shape up. Both are class batsmen. Arguably, there's place for only one in a test series playing 11 squad. But yeah, they need to really step up.
Yeah, totally agree. The one thing I'll say about the English side that I thought was really interesting was Hasib Hamid made a fantastic 112. I think this was interesting. I remember 2016, I want to say it was, when he made his debut, the babyface guy,
I think.
in India and Rajkot, and just had a magnificent series. Everybody said, oh, England's finally found that opener they've been looking for. Then sort of fell off the map a little. And again, we forget, he's 24, I think, right now. So he would have been 19, 20 at the time. Had a great opening season, fell off the map a little bit, and now just looked like the Indian bowlers had no idea what to do against him. And this was almost our full-strength bowling lineup. So will be really interesting. He's been called up. Now, he knew that, I think, walking into day 1 or day 2 of the 3-day warm-up, he knew that he'd got the call. So, of course, making the century cements his likelihood of getting a match. But very interesting to see. The only real reason I wanted to talk about him was because the major difference between 2016 and now that I see is that he's let his hair grow out. So it's got to be the long hair, I think, that helped him become a better batsman.
I'm sure.
That's got to be it. I'm not biased at all on that one, right? But anyway, England, or the county team, made 220. Pretty good bowling performance. Let's talk quickly about Bumrah. I don't know if you watched this, but DJ sent a message saying Bumrah looks completely hapless and out of ideas. He picked up a wicket, but Siraj got 2, Umesh got 3. Are you nervous about Bumrah? Like, you and I have both said on the record, we think he's going to be one of the greats to have ever played Test cricket for India, but he's been struggling, hasn't he?
Yeah, again, I would say you've got so many options that if he's not confident or if he's not looking good enough or picking up wickets, then give him a break, let him play, the first test, assess that and take it after, and then take it as it goes, right? The thing about him is he's so good that I think he should start in the first test. You never know when he finds form. And it could just be one spell that changes his whole kind of thinking and approach. But it's worrying, I would say, in situations where, in the past, we've gone with only 3 quick bowlers to England. And if one of them is not having a good season, you're kind of out. Today, you can easily slot them in with others. So I think India shouldn't worry. They should pick him, but keep an eye on him, man. If it's okay. The same way batsmen go out of form, bowlers go out of form too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of us are just hoping he finds a way back to form, but a little bit worrying. nothing else to really say. Mayank almost made a 50 on the way back. Pujara started looking better. Jadeja got to bat at 4 and made another 50. So this guy's really making his mark. Like, I know you like with Sky and Chahar, you're a big Jadeja fan, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like 5-7 years
I
ago,
was.
but
I remember being the only one of the
yeah,
three of us who was a Jadeja fan, and now you guys have come
yeah,
around.
yeah. I mean, I think he's a great addition to any playing 11, and yeah, it's exciting, man. With Pant and Jadeja in a test team, you really need your top order to give these guys the chance to then go for it, right? So it's a very interesting dynamic and balance.
So the test series starts August 4th. I think next week we'll be wrapping up the T20 series as a whole, and then probably previewing a little bit of the test series. And then test cricket is back. Indian test cricket is back before we realize it. So exciting summer ahead with the tests, then the IPL, then the T20 World Cup. For those of you in England or watching England, also the 100 has been going on. Varun, I have it on a little bit in the mornings. I know you haven't quite latched onto it, but it's been interesting, right? There's some things I don't love. I'm not going to be a purist and say 5-ball overs or not. They're not called overs. They're 5-ball spells, I guess, and 10-ball spells. There's some changes they made just for the sake of it, in my opinion. But it's also been good cricket. Love seeing the men and women matches and the calendars being synced up, and building loyalty for a team across both the men's side and the women's side. That's really cool. Some things that I think they're going to keep working on, but it seems like it's actually off to a pretty good start. Of the 5 or 6 games that have happened on the men's side, only one was a one-sided match. The rest of them have been very close. And on the women's side, just exciting to see Jemima Rodriguez made 93 off 42. Just an unbelievable knock. 93 runs not out in 42 balls. This will be interesting to see now with Shafali playing, Harman is playing, Deepthi is playing, Jemmy is playing. I think it could be really big for the women's game, because you're starting to see Indian fans tune into the women's 100 because of these big names. So for me, that could be the biggest thing that comes out of this tournament.
Yeah, so I did what? So BCCI has officially allowed the women to play.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's a great move, right? Because they haven't gone into a full women's IPL. Another board has taken the initiative to do this. I think it's a smart move, right? Because it's a test and learn for them. Their cricketers get to go experience kind of international T20 level cricket without them having to invest any money. And you never know, man. This could pave the way for Indian cricketers. Maybe not people in the squads of the team, but we have great depth, right? So you never know. It could pave the way for these guys playing BBL, etc.
Yeah, and I can't think of a better way to wrap up this episode of Corporate Tips with Varun Garg than talking about test and learns. No, sorry. This is Edges and Sledges. Different show.
A/B testing, yeah.
A/B testing, test and learns, paving the way, all of the above. I love the corporate lingo. But absolutely right. I'm very excited. It's going to be a great rest of the series. Lots going on. We're going to take a quick Seat Tire strategic timeout. And when we come back, we're going to cover the first T20 between India and Sri Lanka. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast, brought to you by Seat Tires. You might be noticing a little bit of a change. We had a little bit of a substitution happen at halftime here, where Varun has left us and DJ is now joining us, but I'm still here, so you stuck with me. But DJ coming back from a day of playing cricket on Sunday, and now we're going to record and talk a little bit about in the second half of the show about the T20 between India and Sri Lanka. But first, how was your Sunday league cricket? It sounds like you're doing pretty well out there.
Yeah, it was good. We managed to get a game in. There was a lot of rain around forecast for the entire weekend. As I said, I think we spoke last weekend. It was like 30 degrees. So you said it's going to rain for the rest of the year.
Actually, the 100 match in London got cancelled. So how did yours happen? That's weird.
Yeah, so we were slightly outside London. So we escaped most of the game. It was quite ideal, actually. I opened the batting in the first innings, got 60 odd. And then with 1 hour left to go, I think they needed 103 of the last 15 overs. The heavens opened up. The umpire scampered off the pitch. And we just sat in the pub and had a pint. So decent day of cricket.
Doesn't sound too bad. I mean, not the best day of cricket at the 100, with one of the men's match getting rained off, one of them, being a very, very low scorer and very difficult pitch. But let's talk about India versus Sri Lanka as a T20. So we talked about the ODI series in the first half. One of the things I want to ask you about is going into the T20s. We had done, we talked a little bit about the available squads, etc. But let's start with team selection, right? 2 guys got their caps today. It was Prithvi Shaw and who was the second guy? Oh, Varun Chakravarti, of course, right? So opening batsman and mystery spinner. First off, I'm mostly excited that we might now, with Varun playing for the country, have the chance to have Varun and Ashwin bowling together. And if they do it against Sri Lanka, it'll be against Dhananjay, which would just be the best thing ever for the show, wouldn't it?
We could sponsor that exhibition match anyway.
Yes,
The
that would be
Edges
so
and
good.
Sledges exhibition match.
Just
brought
have
to you
Varun
by
and
Seat
Ashwin bowling
Tires.
in tangent to Dhananjay De Silva. That's it. And Akila, both.
And a killer at both ends. Dhananjay at both ends.
Yeah,
Great.
that would just be perfect, man. So good. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about selections, right? So how do you feel about that? Essentially, I'll run down the order quickly. Shaw and Dhawan opening, staying consistent. They played Samson, Sky, and Kishan as your 3, 4, 5, if you will, in whatever order. Hardik at 6. He ended up coming in, getting a promotion. Krunal at 7. So very similar top 7, honestly, to the ODI lineup. And then they had Chahar and Bhuvi with Chahal. And so really Krunal also, and then Chahar, Bhuvi, Chahal, and Varun Chakravarti. So the right 11 for you for T20s with this squad?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen even with the ODIs that Dravid likes to pick a strong 11 at least for the first 2 games while the series is in the bag. Then he brings in, because I think he said previously he doesn't like people going on tours and sitting around and doing nothing, right? And so we saw the 5 ODI debutants who I'm sure you talked about in the first half of the show. So I expect Ruturaj and those guys to get a game later in the series. They'll want to check those guys out as well, but you can't complain. I mean, Shaw has been in magnificent form. You've been a big backer of Varun Chakravarti as the mystery spinner. So yeah, you can't complain with the squad. The Pandya brothers and their Skies and their Ishan Kishan has played before for India as well. Samson has played before for India. So fairly predictable 11, I would say, in some ways. So no complaints from me at least.
So India ended up losing the toss, going into bat. Prithvi Shaw, I don't know if you got a chance to watch it or have watched highlights or whatever it is, but first ball,
yeah,
pretty stock delivery, absolutely no movement of the feet. Bat kind of pushes outside of the off stump and gets an edge. And I don't know, there was some debate on whether that's called a golden duck or a diamond duck. I thought it was called a golden duck for first baller, but some people
I think it's a golden duck. I think a diamond duck is if you run out without facing
zero.
the ball. So
That's what I thought.
0.
But somebody on one of the commentators was saying diamond is first ball of the match.
We should ask Nicholas Puran. He has a lot of experience.
Yeah, let's. Why don't you send him a WhatsApp?
Yeah, I'll just message the guy. Hey, Nick, what's the answer? But we lost the toss. Didn't you miss Shikhar Dhawan slapping his thigh after winning the toss?
That was just amazing, dude. That was just the greatest thing. I saw it and I thought somebody had made that up or photoshopped it and taken a visual of him after a catch and edited the video. And there's no, this is real. This is amazing.
The toss is a spectacle with Shikhar out there. He wins the toss. He's
It's just amazing. But so let's quickly talk about Shaw, right? He makes 43 in the first ODI. Gives up a wicket, but looks phenomenal and wins man of the match, actually. Makes 49 in the second. Same kind. This time it was at a run ball. In the third. Same kind of feedback, though. Hey, he should have kept going. Suddenly, I don't know if it's the duck or it's the first ball of the T20 series or the manner of just flashing outside off, but social media was up in arms. Who is this guy? Can't move his feet and this and that. Are we too harsh on this kid or does he need some time away from the sport? Let's make a judgment call once and for all.
He plays like that, right? That's how he plays. There wasn't a technical issue. The ball swung, he edged it, he got caught. It happened. You've got to take the good with the bad. And this is the thing with Indian cricket fans. We only want every player to score runs every match. It doesn't work though. That's not how sport is played. And if sport is played that way, it would be pretty boring. Right? Today I got 50. Tomorrow I'm most likely to get a duck. But because there's somebody playing against you, they've got skills. You've got to.
I'm counting that you got 120 something and then 68 within 2 matches. So for me, anything less than 60 now, I'm going to be upset at your Sunday League performances.
Yeah, so you can abuse me on social media. But I mean, you take the good with the bad. We've talked about him being Virender Sehwag, right? And Varun's famous line is always it's either 4 of 0 of the first ball or it's 0 for 1. So you just have to live with it. And he's an exciting player to watch when he gets going. It works. And why not? He's there to take advantage of the conditions early on. He's got Shikhar Dhawan who can stabilize. You've got Sky who can stabilize. So, I mean, I have no complaints with the guy. It's just the way he plays. And long may carry on and long may be successful. He's had a pretty successful career so far already.
Yeah, so pretty well said. I mean, I'll run through the rest. Shikhar looked pretty good, made 46. Samson hit a couple of glorious shots, one wonderful 6 down the track. And then Sky came in. He's already won the SIAT Secure Drive Player of the Week in the first half of the show for his ODIs. I put out a tweet at one point because I just had no words to say. I was like, Sky batting is just a sight for sore eyes. I could sit and watch him bat on loop all day. I'm going to quickly ask you, Varun made a claim in the first half that at this point in his career, it is very difficult to leave Sky out of any white ball side for the country. Do you think that's true now? Has he already got himself there? I mean, the numbers don't lie.
So last week, someone pointed out on our Discord that we hadn't even talked about Shreyas Iyer, who was the incumbent number 4 for the Indian team, because we just assumed that Sky had walked into it. Iyer's obviously injured; he's coming back from injury. You've got Rahul, Samson, Kishan. The names just rolled off our tongue. But I think he's making himself undroppable in Iyer's absence and Rahul being in England, and it's just the calmness that he brings to the crease, the presence he brings to the crease. He scores quickly without looking like he's taking too many risks, but the shots are audacious, they're crazy. Like that flick shot that he plays is one of the hardest shots to play against spin, but the wrist speed and the bat speed he gets through is incredible. He's lapping the fast bowlers over the keeper's head. He's magnificent. I was watching the highlights of the game where I think he got 50 of 34 balls today, right? And he just feels like he's worked out white ball cricket. It's like Kohli at his peak.
Yeah, he's figured it
and
out. Yeah.
he's figured it out, and he knows how it's going. So it's going to be really hard to drop him. You have to do something pretty special to keep Sky out of the white ball team. So in agreement with Varun there for a change.
Yeah, interesting. That's rare. Only when you're not in the same screen is when you agree. But I had an unrelated question that I'm going to ask, and hopefully some of our listeners can help me answer. With Shikhar captaining India, but he does not captain the Delhi Capitals. I think he's captained a handful of games for Sunrisers before he get in like 2014, so before he gave it up. But are there other examples of people who do not captain their home country franchise league team, but captain the country? And I say home country because Smith doesn't captain Delhi either, but he's an overseas player in the side. So I'm going to exclude those examples of when you're an overseas player. I couldn't think of one off the top of my head where somebody like Root always captains his franchise. He's captaining the 100 team too. Stokes has recently captained England, but he's captaining his team, right? As I go through, I'd be interested to see if we can come up with an example where your mention of Iyer triggered that thought. But I was thinking through, Shikhar one of the few players who's captaining his national side, but doesn't captain his franchise. So yes, it's a national B team and all the disclaimers, but it's an interesting fact.
Yeah, and also when you just talked about Iyer, I'd totally forgotten about Rishabh Pant, which is amazing for us, right? Like he's another contender for that middle order slot. Where do you fit him in?
Did you just say I had totally forgotten about Rishabh Pant? I'm going to cut that clip out now and just like send it back to you. That's the only thing I'm going to quote back to you at some point.
Yeah, but incredible.
So let's talk about the middle order. It was an interesting choice. Samson came in at one down, Yadav at 2 down. By the time the third wicket fell, it was 14 overs in. Right? You have Kishan who can hit the ball pretty well, but they promoted Hardik Pandya. I got to say, Hardik looked pretty poor out there. It didn't seem like he knew what he was doing, ran out of ideas, didn't seem to be making good contact, ended up at 10 of 12. But I also say that he didn't look great with the ball either. He got 2 overs. He ended up picking up a wicket off a slower ball, so credit for the wicket. The truth is, he got hit for a 6 off his first ball, and he didn't look like he was bowling great. So
he dropped a catch as well.
He dropped a pretty simple catch early on. And by the way, that's another piece of value Sky adds. I can't remember the last time I saw him drop a simple catch. Like he picked up 2 catches today. He's very solid in the outfield. But yeah, what's happening with Hardik Pandya? Is it mental? Is it the idea that he has to suddenly walk back in and bat and bowl? Is he just? Do we not overthink this and just say, yeah, it's a rough patch. It's fine. The best of them go through it. He'll be back by the World Cup. Because arguably he's the linchpin of that World Cup middle order because of that ability to bat and bowl.
Yeah, it's tough to see what's happened to him. I mean, he was struggling a little bit with his offside batting, I think, before he got injured again. But he seemed to have worked on that during the IPL. He was hitting well over the offside. He was looking like the beast that he is. But I don't know whether there's this change of personnel being kept out of the test team in England, which, I mean, lots of people say that's the first string team for whatever it's worth, right? I don't know whether that's affecting him mentally, whether he feels like I feel like he's got FOMO, right? He's a pretty young kid. He's like, Virat and KL are hanging out in England, and I'm in Sri Lanka with the B team, and maybe that's playing on his mind. I don't know, but he looked out of sorts. But I wouldn't worry too much. He looked out of sorts in the ODI series as well. But I mean, with him, I guess if the switch flicks on, he'll be back to being that massive hitter of the cricket ball. It seems like it's more mental at the moment. I don't see like a technical issue, so to speak. So hopefully he comes good. And as you say, he's a linchpin for that World T20 squad, seam bowling all rounder, which yeah, valuable in any format of the game.
I think it gets interesting, and we're going to talk about this so much. But if you have him playing well at 6, Jadeja, who made 250s in the county match, yeah, that's white, that's red ball cricket. But Jadeja batting at 7, and maybe a Deepak Chahar at 8. Suddenly, you have 6 quality bowling options and 8 reasonably good, or 7 quality and 8 reasonably good batting options. But we can talk about that a lot. Ended up at 164. A little bit of a slow finish, largely because of Hardik. And then Ishan Kishan looked good, but I said Ishan just to represent Varun while he's out. But looked good, but weren't able to finish with that flourish. I think we got 8 or 9 runs off the last over. And then Sri Lanka came out and actually looked pretty solid, right? They lost wickets at quick intervals, but they were 48 odd after the power play and ended up losing a couple more wickets. It came down to, honestly, Avishka Fernando, who was looking good. And when he got out, Asalanka hit some really glorious shots, but not enough to take them over the line. But quickly on the bowling, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar was given man at the match, picked up 4. I was really, really pleased to see Varun Chakravarti do well. He ended up with 1 for 28, which on paper isn't good, but he was bowling smart, bowled a really tight first over, got an over in the power play. Chahal came in, bowled this absolute peach of a delivery the first over after the power play to get a wicket. So overall, pretty good bowling performance. I was pretty happy, but any comments, anything specific, or were you happy to see Bhuvi in the wickets? I think you were talking about him not normally getting wickets at the death, right?
Sorry, it's just dropped after your question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so great performance by Bhuvi. Apparently, he hadn't taken too many wickets in the death overs of late, and those 3 wickets. So he's like the opposite of the junk wickets, right? That we keep making fun of. He apparently takes a lot of wickets up front in the power play and the middle overs of a T20 game. So nice to see him boost that wicket tally, bring his average down a little bit. But yeah, he bowled really well. The Sri Lankans really looked like they were in it for a long time, and then just sort of fell away. But I mean, that's the quality that the Indian team have to be able to bring out Bhuvi, who takes 4 wickets. Chahar bowled well. He took 2 wickets in the over. He looked fairly fired up as well to build on his ODI match-winning performance with the bat. But I mean, it's looking good at the moment, man. Like you add a Bumrah to this squad. I don't know who he replaces or whether he makes it as a third seamer, but that's a pretty great bowling lineup, like seam wise. And then Jadeja, as you say, making himself unstoppable in all the formats, and Krunal doing an able job, frankly, filling in for him over here. So good signs for T20 cricket for India generally. I just like the energy with which they've been playing cricket, right? Throughout the ODI series, the T20 series, we keep talking about as an audition for the World T20 World Cup, but the World T20 World Cup, the T20 World Cup. And it's the energy with this whole team has been playing is just incredible. So I'm just loving watching these youngsters plus Sky and Dhawan, just plus Bhuvi and Chahar and all these guys, and just play with the excellent positive energy, taking the game to the opposition. It's been great to watch so far.
Yeah, well, really, really well said. Could not agree more. Just been an outstanding display today. Not perfect. They were probably 15, 20 runs short, as Dhawan said at the end, but it's all about being able to find those results, right? And even when it looks like Sri Lanka could chase it down, the bowlers didn't give up hope. So, DJ, that pretty much brings us to a wrap. Good first T20. 2 matches to go. What is your prediction for the rest of the T20 series?
I'm sure you've talked about me getting the ODI series prediction, right?
We did. You have the right to gloat, but you have to go back and listen to the first half to appreciate it. So we give that to you.
I'll do that. I actually think we're going to win this 3-0 just because we're too strong. I think we're just too strong. It's too much depth. So unless we do we basically swap the entire 11, which is what Rahul Dravid did in the third ODI. I think we're going to sail this just because of the quality that this T20 squad has. They've got IPL experience under their belt as well. Even like Chakra, I mean, he walks into this team and he just looks like he belongs right at that level. It's just great.
See, I'm going to go the opposite this time. And having seen the ODI playbook, I think we're going to end up 2-1. I believe we'll win the Tuesday match. And then Dravid's going to say, look, Navdeep and Sakaria have both traveled all the way. he wants to give them some potential time. Gotham, maybe it's not enough to get one ODI. I think if you're going to play them and you can afford to, if you go up 2-0, then I expect to see Padikkal and Gaikwad, maybe Rana. Honestly, Varun and I talked this in the first half, but I was more surprised we didn't change the batsman in the third ODI. Would have been a good time. We only really changed bowlers 7 through 11. So hard to say what's going on, but
I actually think that we've got better T20 bench strength than ODI bench strength, which is why I'm actually backing, like, a Gotham has played so much T20 cricket, right? He's played so much for the Rajasthan. I don't know whether he's still playing for them or whether he's moved to Punjab now, but these guys are class, man. Like they've got it. It's a 3-0 for me, sealing the win by the end of the week.
Perfect. And that's pretty much it. I mean, hopefully one of the two of us is right. It's very possible that it ends up being 1-2. Good series, lots of exciting stuff to come with the test match. I think by the time we're with you next, we will be wrapping up the T20s and previewing the England test, because that starts August 4th. So very exciting. DJ, right before we wrap up, can you quickly give our listeners a reminder on the hashtag Bat with Siat contest for their chance to win this month? This is our last week, I guess.
Yeah, this is the last week in July, guys. So get your answers in. We still haven't. I think I've asked a question that's way too hard. So maybe I need to look at the difficulty of the questions now. But the question is, in 2009, an Indian player was asked to take a dope test and had their bat checked after they hit a 6 at the Sydney cricket ground that was so large that the Australian officials didn't believe that it was all kosher and above board. Of course, the bat was checked, the dope test was taken, it all came back clear. You have to name that Indian cricketer who hit that 6 above 90 meters in 2009 at the Sydney cricket ground. Tell us the name of that player with the hashtag BatWithSiat, and you'll be entered into a draw to win an autographed cricket bat by Siat Tires. It's just a fantastic looking bat. I really want to get my hands on it now.
That's it. That brings us to a wrap. Thank you for tuning in to episode 185 of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. Always great. Thank you. We always appreciate your feedback. Social media at One Tip One Hand across all of them. Check out our Discord. Enjoy the next 2 T20s, and we will see you next week back with the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast, brought to you by Siat Tires.